We are back, and Adam, it only felt timing-wise I guess for you it didn't get too cold this past weekend. For Andrew and I, it got below freezing at some point in one of our cities, and the other one it got to 2 degrees. It only felt right with the weather getting colder. We had to bring in our guy from Minnesota, not only to talk about the scope of the NBA, but also about his team, the Timberwolves, as he covers for SB Nation for Canis Hoops. And so, Andrew Carlson, welcome back on, my man. It's been a minute. We were sad
man.
We missed you for the Timberwolves Anatomy of a Franchise, but you were out of the freaking country, so I guess that's a worthy excuse.
Well, I actually fell asleep listening to all of them. I forgot to throw the sleep timer on, and so I ran through almost all of them.
I love it.
We'll take it. We'll take the play.
Night, but I was able to actually listen to the Wolves one all the way through, and you guys did a really, really nice job with that. I think there was, I think I texted you. You guys left out Western Conference Semis Game 7 against Denver for one of the most important games in franchise history. I had a little bit of a bone to pick with that, but you guys did a great job, man. That was a fun one to listen to.
I appreciate it. No, and I think for us, it was, for that one, Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, it was that game like 1 or 2 that we had with Ant and Jokic. I feel like we did that one.
Yep,
you did.
Yep. We tried to only have one for each year, so that was the cut. I unfortunately was like, we chose a more painful one than the joyous Game 7 win. But sometimes we have to go that route,
which is fair, and also too for a franchise that doesn't really have a lot of them. Like I feel like 3 of the more consequential games in that franchise's history have come from that playoffs run alone. So don't fault you guys. Just, it was an observation from afar that made its way into Mitch's inbox, and here we are.
No, we appreciate it.
Fair enough. Well, Carlson, before we get to the Wolves, we had some big games on Saturday. We had the NBA Cup semifinals. I'll start here. Carlson, are we a fan of the NBA Cup?
I don't know, because I still think that it's hard to gauge if the coaches and players are. I think that there are a select number of players that actually do want to play for the money, and I think that is actually a pretty enticing benefit for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to sift through how much of the NBA Cup hype from coaches, like, oh yeah, the players like it more, like we definitely understand, like how much of that is kind of a PR pump up and how much of it is actually genuine. So I don't know. I also haven't been able to cover a run in Vegas yet either, so that also
might be encouraging for you.
Yeah, that might eliminate some of it. So I'm still kind of undecided on it, but I'm not gonna dump on it like a lot of people have. Like if you're gonna dump on it, then you're just kind of, you don't like fun things. You don't like added fun to things in general. But I don't know if I actually love it from a perspective, because I don't know how much juice it actually adds in some of those group stage games. I could be wrong.
That's fair. Adam, I mean, we've talked about it a bunch, and I think one of the things we've talked about is just like the world hates change sometimes, and the world that hates it the most is the sports world. Like if there's ever change, it is the sports world that hates it the most, I feel like. And so I think the NBA has had so much, different things pop in, whether it be we had that for a stretch there, we had all-star teams being handpicked and drafted, and now we're back to we were back to East and West, and now we're doing the international versus East versus West, and I'm just still very confused how that's all working out. But it is I think the NBA has just had so much change that I think having like something in the middle to hopefully get excited about. And I think we've seen some fans get more and more into it, while a lot of fans still have a lot of questions on what the meaning is to it.
Yeah, I think Carlson's point there. It's like, it's, the people who hate it, it's like you just don't like anything interesting. It's like, yeah, everything has to stay the same, and you have to, like, it's not taking away anything. I think that's pretty clear. Like it's clearly not a negative. Like if you don't buy in or you don't love it, well, that's fine, but it's definitely not a negative. I think you're right. The group stages, I don't really think it had much of it. I mean, it's all games you would have played anyway. But I do think the quarterfinals did have a bit of a different feel, and I think they've scheduled it a bit better this year, where it's like really obvious which nights are kind of the cup nights, and they clear the schedule completely. I think that's cool. And then even having the semifinal night where it's like, hey, really the only other major sports thing going on is the Heisman announcement, which that's not as big a deal as it used to be.
In Army Navy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that I mean, I guess there's people who watch that, but I mean, that's like it's nice to have a night where it's like, hey, the focus of all the other teams are on these two games going on. I think that's cool, and I think that this is the last year they're doing the semis in Vegas. They're moving that back because I do think the atmosphere probably lacks a little bit when you don't have like the kind of partisan crowds. But so I think that's actually a smart idea to go back to just like the higher seed gets the home court for the semifinals, and then have just the final in Vegas, where that feels like an event, right? A place where you normally don't play. So I think all of that's really smart. The stakes don't totally matter yet. It feels, like I think we'll need more time with it to be like, and then a team that maybe wins the cup and the championship in the same year. Because obviously in the soccer world, that's a huge deal. Like you win the double, right? You win the FA Cup and you win the Premier League. That's a huge deal. So I think that will help. And then I also think that the groups, if they just made them the divisions, that might clear up some stuff too. To where the groups aren't changing every single year, and you're kind of almost creating these like little rivalries within your division. Like, hey, only one of us is actually going to go to this kind of quarterfinal stage. That might help a little bit too. But there's some tweaking they can do, but they definitely need to keep it. And I think this game, tomorrow could be really fun.
It's a great point, actually, of like it doesn't take away anything. The question I have is that like just watching back some of the Spurs Oklahoma City game, the game had clearly had some juice to it.
Oh yeah.
It was a lot of fun to watch. How much of it was the NBA Cup? How much of it was Oklahoma City? Like the fact that it's the
Yeah.
Oklahoma City takedown. How
Yeah.
is it us being happy that there's this kind of dynastic element to the NBA again, and that there's this team that has a target on their back that's just kind of begging to be beaten? That honestly, not a lot of people love.
You are one of them.
I am one of them. They're just I don't hate them. They're just frustrating. Um, so that could be part of it. The question that I'm a little bit more ambivalent on is the additive aspect to it. Like if we had like depending on what the final four teams are, like depending on who ends up there on a year to year basis, what's the additive? What is the additive of the group stage games? Because the thing is, I remember in the planning process of how do we make these November games matter? How do we make these kind of like early kind of slog season games matter? And how do we make an event also? Like right now it's kind of the summer league and that's kind of become a whole thing. Like how do we get this Super Bowl like gathering of people together in a marquee city? And we'll kind of wait and see if that's become a thing that the NBA can kind of hang its hat on. I mean, I do think that Summer League has kind of emerged as that event.
Right.
I mean, anyone who's an executive or a national person who
Trainer,
covers the league,
coach, yeah, yeah.
they're all there for Summer
Yep.
League. I mean, I don't think the NBA Cup is ever really going to overtake it. But give it 5 years, man. Like let's just see how this thing rolls. Like to form an opinion on how great or how terrible it is, and have this big strung out grandiose opinion at when you haven't even crowned our third champion yet is a little bit over the line.
Yeah.
in my eyes. And it just like we don't have to have a race to a take, frankly, for something
So
like this.
I do think tomorrow, because the first 2 years the championship game is on Saturday, right? I do think it being on a Tuesday, kind of away from everything else, will help a bit. It's like, hey, this is kind of the only main thing going on tomorrow night. And then obviously it's a marquee team in the Knicks, and then a marquee player in Wemby. That will help. I do think tomorrow will feel like an event.
And it's got the NBC coverage too, I believe,
Yep.
behind it as well. And
Is it Amazon?
is it Amazon? Is it Prime?
Yeah, I think it's Amazon.
I think it is
Yeah,
Prime.
Amazon.
I think it is
Yeah.
Prime because
Yeah.
NBC had some of the semi-carrying rights, right?
Yeah.
So
Prime is like the all in on this. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the fact that it is on one of the primary streamers and it's the week of cleared out games. That's a good point, Adam.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and it has, I think, so how the schedule is this week for the NBA. Monday, I mean, tonight, we're recording this Monday night. There's a few games tonight. Then there's the final tomorrow. And then Wednesday, there's like 2-3 games. And then we backfill right before we get into the week of Christmas. I think for me, it is just such a weird timing of it all because it ends like the week before Christmas, which is the other headline, headline day of the NBA.
Yeah.
So it's like, do we scoot it up like a week and like have it end like the 2 weeks before Christmas? Just like say, oh, and hopefully one of these or both of these teams are playing on Christmas Day, so that way we could be like still cheering for these guys, or like remember, oh my gosh, hey, remember the NBA Cup? These 2 weeks ago, these guys were battling it out. So I don't know. I think that's one thing I was thinking about too. But we have the game tomorrow night, which is San Antonio versus the Knicks. And Adam, we had like Carlson brought up, it is finally the Thunder lost. You took down the Wicked Witch of the West, if we're sticking with the time of everything, and it is this Spurs team that has so much young talent, and it is this team that has just this incited hope, and then the incredible talent that is Wemby, who doesn't play the entire first quarter of the
Yeah.
game against the Thunder, and then just on a minutes restriction carries them in that fourth quarter. As a Spurs fan, what did it feel like to you just watching the back half of that game and being like, okay, holy crap, we are this good already and with this much talent?
I mean, obviously, it was incredibly exciting. It's one of those games I was really looking forward to. Obviously, because like, hey, there's some stakes. This is cool playing in Vegas, and then playing, the Thunder. Like you said, the big bad wolf here. So, the Wemby thing was so crazy. It was like the second he entered the game, it's like the floor tilted. It was just like, oh, like this is now a different game. Like it just was so like stark, the contrast between the first quarter and the second quarter. And he was obviously up for it. I gotta say, 5-6 minutes into the game, I was like, oh, this might be pretty rough here. I mean, the Thunder just got everything they wanted. And the Spurs offense has actually gotten a tick better with Wemby out, but the defense has obviously gotten significantly worse. So
Right.
Fox has been amazing while Wemby's been out. So it was like, okay, how is that balance going to play out, as he comes back? And there were some iffy moments, right? He had a couple bad turnovers, but the defense, it was just like night and day. Like when he's back there, like the guards all of a sudden can pressure, like it's a half court almost. Like they can just, I mean, Fox fighting over every single screen. Just OKC's offense is starting so much later than usual, all because they have Wemby behind them. It's like it just completely changes the entire tenor of the game. And then he was going at Caruso and going at some of these guys. Like that was cool to see. Like his fire, I think, in a game that had some stakes. I thought it was nice for everybody to kind of be reminded of that because we saw that in the Olympics, right? But he's not playing a playoff game yet, obviously. So it was nice to kind of see that in a game that that did matter.
I was going to say, in Carlson, I mean, you have this and Anthony Edwards, a guy who's very vocal, I mean, in your hometown too, but it's like when you have a player like Wemby who seems to care that much, not only does like the fans also care about it behind him, but it's like you can feel that energy then just go into the team as well. Like you saw it with Castle, with how hard he even attacked the rim in that game. And even, I mean, like you brought up Fox too, but it felt like Wemby's physicality throughout this game and just like throughout this entire season, whenever he's just like confident, the entire team behind him gets confident.
Yeah, everybody radiates off their top option. And I mean, from an Anecdotal Wolf sense, like a lot of the struggles that they've had against teams that are bad or below 500 in previous years have been because Ant shows up and essentially kind of rolls the ball out and doesn't really care as much. When, I mean, you feed off of your top option. And I think on a night to night basis, you are as good as them. And I also think from a Wemby standpoint, he's worlds better. But I mean, from my sense and watching so many games over the last few years from the Wolves, I mean, Rudy Gobert is a player where he gets on the floor and the floor immediately tilts on the defensive end just by his presence in the paint. And so, I mean, when you have all of those things kind of paramounted into one player who is Victor Wembanyama, I mean, that makes a world of difference. And I mean, you look at it from an on-off standpoint, just of I mean, you don't even really need decimal points and numbers to talk about his impact. You can just watch it. But if you really need that to talk about him, I mean, you can point to almost any lineup combo that ever enters the floor and checks into the game next to him, and they'll probably have either a positive net rating or a pretty ridiculously low defensive rating too. It's pretty spectacular to watch. And in the Spurs, man, they're and I'll say too, like I know it's been a pretty up and down year, but like I was very high on Dylan Harper before the draft, like. In a lot of the draft work I did, I mean, I didn't really study a ton of the top 4 picks because the Wolves were never going to pick there. But just in doing some of the work on the first few picks, like Dylan Harper was, I mean, outside of Cooper, my favorite player. And like, I think that he really has the ability to be the most complete guard at a young age since like a Cade, even if you really, I mean, I would say he's already more polished than an Ant was when he came into the league in 2020. But some of the defensive IQ stuff that you see from him just freaking pops. Like There's a little bit of a ways to go on that side of the ball. But that, like the length he has and just like the fearlessness he has sometimes in going to the basket, that is stuff that you just can't like develop.
No.
And some of that other stuff is going to come, but he's been someone who like I'm obviously Wemby's Wemby, and we can talk about him and however long we want, but he's someone like I'm legitimately jealous of Spurs fans of that he's a member of your team.
Yeah, awesome, man.
I love Dylan Harper as a player.
Yeah. I've been calling him the downhill machine because it is just constant, right? And it's like all different kinds of finishes. And he barely really, I mean, it's just his like sense of balance and like kind of timing and change of pace is so good. He's not sitting there dribbling like 8-9 times and like breaking guys down. It's just like one move go at the rim. Like it's just so efficient.
It's not garbage. Like there's no wasted movement.
No,
it doesn't really matter on both sides of the ball too. Like there's just not a ton of wasted movement. It's amazing. I believe him and Cornette and Wemby together. They haven't played very many minutes. It's not a lineup combo that they use a lot, but they have like a 91 defensive rating.
That's incredible.
It's pretty funny. But like I said, on ball stuff, like you might have a little bit of a ways, but like as a team defender and just with who he is as a player, he's already looks to be a pretty complete guy. And
on ball, he's not, because he plays with Steph Castle, he's not gonna have to guard number one options,
right?
Which is
awesome.
So.
Exactly. Yeah. He's kind of off the clock.
Yeah.
And so he can kind of just use his length to his advantage. So, he's an awesome player. I'm legitimately jealous.
Well, it is the high IQ that it seems like him and Castle have both come into like their first few years of the NBA with, and even Wemby too. It is, and Wemby's like kind of his mind has evolved and like his like knowing, okay, here's where I can use my height to my strength as I get closer. I mean, we saw how many times he was shooting threes early on in his career, and it's adjusted, but
big
even
time.
still. Yeah, big time. But even still, like those three being like your most recent draft picks and their IQs being that high has just been spectacular. And so I think you have great vets around them, and like Barnes and Fox and Cornette even too is just been like, hey, and I think all three of those guys are corny as well as they are just like super fun, like to be. I mean, they bring that same kind of energy, but I mean to have the high IQ players in at that young, along with just like guys who seemingly know their role. I think that's the other thing too, Adam, is like these Spurs players, I mean, Vassell and Keldon, like guys who have been there for so long, even like Barnes, like they have been waiting to like actually slide into the role that they're now playing. And it's been like they've been developing at like a higher level. Like they've had to be bigger roles on these Spurs teams, so to know, hey, this is the role I'm actually supposed to play, and we're seeing that now. And it's been a development. And you've talked about how much you've loved Keldon over the years, and like how much you've loved seeing this version of him. And it seems like it's all coming kind of fruition right now.
Yeah, there are years where Keldon has scored more, shot more, whatever. Like this is the best basketball he's ever played because he's playing exactly the role he is meant to play. It's almost like when Aaron Gordon went to Denver. Now Gordon's a much better player for sure, but like just slots into exactly where he should be. Like you don't need to be the ball handling like LeBron type wing operating from the top. Like play your role, be a star in that, and that'll go so much further. And I always wondered, when the team sucked, a few years ago, it was like, okay, who's going to be a part of the next great Spurs team? And I always thought Keldon could be a part of it, but I was like, but it's not going to be as the second or third option. Like, it's just not,
No.
He's just not that type of player. But as the sixth man, like, perfect. I mean, he brings everything you want and out of a guy off the bench. And then he'll finish some games, too, because he obviously provides a bunch of stuff. He's also shooting well. So, no, this is like the perfect. And then, I mean, even Mitch Johnson said the other day, he's the heart and soul of the team. Like, he grabs the mic at home wins afterwards. He says something to the crowd. Like, he is like the guy, the kind of like rallying force for sure, like the emotional leader for sure. So no, we've loved everything from Keldon this year.
Let's switch to the other side. The other team that is going to be playing the Spurs after they in the final, which is the New York Knicks, and they beat the Magic in the first game. And even in the win, Carlson, maybe you can speak to this too. It feels. Why do I feel like this Knicks team is the Wolves from a few years ago, like the 2 years ago when they had Cat still? It feels like they have insane, like a great starting lineup, but once you get to that bench, it's like, what are we getting out of them? It is like you're playing basically Uno of like, okay, here are the cards I'm getting dealt tonight, and which card's going to give me the draw for it, and which one's giving me a reverse, and like I'm going to go backwards. And so I don't know. It feels like this Knicks team is similar to that Wolves team from 2 years ago, where we're like, what are we actually getting from the bench tonight? They're starting five, you can count on them, but after that, what's coming behind it?
Yeah, I mean, Deuce McBride and anybody like,
Right.
I think the Knicks to me are pretty interesting because, well, I think this matchup is pretty interesting in general because I think the Spurs are hovering right around the middle of the pack in terms of how often they take and make threes, and the Knicks are pretty high up. I think the Knicks are seventh in attempts and fourth in makes. Like it's clearly going to be a game of like if the Spurs can control the paint, I don't think they should really have any issues winning this game. The question is, like how are they going to do that? What are some of the things the Knicks are going to deploy to try and maybe harden up the paint, despite being what I would say is maybe a little bit soft inside.
Right.
The thing
Yeah.
with the thing with the Wolves 2 years ago is at least behind Cat they had Rudy to maybe
Right.
shore things up a little bit. I just don't know if the Knicks are maybe as reliable there right now. Specifically for New York, I just from a macro point of view too, like outside of the start, you talk about outside of the starting five, but just within the starting five, like I would have thought that from an advanced stat perspective, Mikal Bridges would have been a little bit more like of a pop off the charts kind of guy. It's OG and Anunoby for them, and I don't
Right.
even think it's really close. I think like you have Mikal off and OG on, like the net rating is pretty staggering. If Mikal's on, OG's off, like it's a pretty staggering net rating reversal. And then when you pair each one with Jalen Brunson, there's quite a bit of a difference there as well. So yeah, I mean, I hear you to some degree, Mitch, but it's just like who are the guys and who are the combinations that Mike Brown ultimately wants to get to within the starting five, and who are the guys off the bench that he feels comfortable in playing with two or three of those starting five guys. It is, I mean, I would maybe even compare it a little bit more to a current state of the Wolves of, who plays less with the current bench and who plays more with two or three of the starters. And we'll see how much offense we can run. Let's get some shots up and just see if we're just good enough inside to be able to win. In the East, it's going to work. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they make it out of the East this year, but
Right.
It's a dangerous game.
Right.
I don't know what the sum of it is. And I think, and it like just to compare them to a team that they beat in the Magic, the Magic just, they need something from a lot of like unproven talent right now in order to take that next elite step. And that, like, those are the types of teams that are right there with the Knicks right now. And the Knicks, I think, are just, like, it's the East.
They have proven talent on their team already, and that's the thing. That, like, you're right. The Magic and like every other team, like the Pistons, they have like 4 or 5 guys who are like, oh, we know what you are. You are a known commodity. You know what you're doing. But then there's like, do we know what Ron Holland is? Do we see, like, I mean, or like there's some other guys just around this, or even like the Celtics. Like, listen, I've loved the Jordan Walsh run. Don't get me wrong. That man I will run through a brick wall for that man right now. But give me 2 more months, and I might have some other questions. But there are so many teams with so many questions, and I think the Knicks have the least amount of those questions, or like surrounding certain players. The thing I will also say is it feels like anyone can get to the rim on the Knicks at this point. It feels like that Magic game, and that's what I'm saying, that I feel like that's the thing the Spurs can do is the Knicks they have great perimeter defenders in OG and Bridges and Hart. It's just whenever like they beat one of those guys, it feels like all right, great, Cats right there. We can attack that, and like we feel no fear. And so I am curious to see if the Knicks even throw out like if they try the Robinson Cat lineup a little bit more to see if there's any like defensive matchup with Wemby. So that's one thing I'm curious about. But I also just think the Spurs are going to try to just get to the rim, like you're saying, Carlson, the entire time against the Knicks. I mean, because think about it. Like whenever you talked about Harper earlier, I feel like Fox can get by most guys, and even Castle is showing his physicality to get to the rim.
Yeah. I imagine if Robinson is playing, That's great for Wemby because now he can hang around the rim. I mean, it's like that. Like in the starting lineup, I'm a little bit concerned because it's like if he guards Cat, that's probably like the most natural matchup. Or you put him on Hart, right? He's like probably the least kind of ball handler guy. He kind of like hides essentially on Hart, but Hart's shooting really well this year, so that is a little bit dangerous too. So if they play Mitchell and Cat together, to me that's a huge win for the Spurs. Like I think at that point, Spurs then go Wemby, bunch of wings, and are the guards, and just like spread it out. And I mean that's going to be, and then defensively we can actually keep Wemby by the rim when that happens. So that'll be ball pressure like crazy. And so I actually hope they do that, but. The Knicks are the depth piece is gonna we're not gonna see it as much in the regular season. Like it's not gonna matter as much, but it'll be obvious in some of these playoff matchups. Like their lack of kind of versatility. I mean, we may not see it till the finals, I guess, but because they may get through anyway, like you said, Carlson. But I love their starting five so much though. Like they've gone back to kind of just their best five guys, and their starting five is awesome. And when they're like really like humming offensively, I think it's really fun to watch. And it's five guys who fit so well together. But the defense is still the question mark.
It's going to be curious to see too. Like I would imagine, like you talked about, Adam, like with the whole Robinson thing, what kind of happens there? Do they even start out with Cat as the initial defender, and who do they bring as a help guy on Wemby right away? Like they're clearly going to, I would imagine, bring a lot of attention. Maybe see if the Spurs can turn into a jump shooting team. But just like you said on the Knicks side, like. They make a coach's job easy because they make searching for combinations so freaking simple. Like it just it doesn't, like, you can mitigate bench problems by having 2 to 3 go-to lineup combinations that you could put me with and end up winning basketball games. I'll just kind of go off the point that I was rolling with earlier. Like, cause I pulled some of these numbers. When Jalen Brunson is off the floor, Mikal Bridges and OG are on. They actually have a 24 net rating. When Mikal Bridges is off, OG and Brunson are playing together, 19 net rating. When all three are on, they have a 15 net rating. And when OG is on and Bridges and Brunson are both off, they actually have a 3 net rating. So, I mean, when you're able to essentially swap out wings, take your best scorer off the floor, maybe have him on, maybe have him off, and you're still probably going to net positive. I mean, obviously Towns probably has a pretty sizable factor in that, but I'd say those are probably 3 X factors in moving the needle behind Towns or outside of Towns. And if you're still able to be a positive basketball team throughout those things, it's a pretty good sign.
I would assume they start like Anunoby probably even on Wemby to start the game. Like I think, I mean, you could maybe, because what is Barnes, like your Barnes will start, right?
Yeah. I mean,
and I'm saying that
obviously didn't start in the semifinal. Which I imagine he will tomorrow. They haven't said anything yet. That was the kind of minutes, and he still probably will be on a minutes restriction. But I imagine he starts the game. Would be my guess. Obviously, 2 more days of rest, and you think he starts at this point. But yeah, so it'd be Barnes and obviously Vassell, and then Castle and Fox. So the other matchups kind of are more obvious. But I am curious to see who they put Hart on. That kind of is like the interesting one to me, because I would go OG on Wemby to start. Just get underneath him. Obviously, the physicality that'll kind of cause some problems. And if the double team is coming off of Castle, most likely, who starts on Castle then? Is Josh Hart the guy who's double teaming and causing?
That's what I'm saying. I think it's Hart that starts on Castle, and then Bridges probably starts on either Fox or Vassell, but then maybe you probably start him on Fox, and then you put Brunson on Vassell, and then Cat on Barnes.
Yeah, and then Brunson's gonna have a tough time in that game. There's not a place.
That's
to
what I'm
Brunson.
saying, though.
Yeah,
no, that's the thing. You have the 2 downhill drivers or like downhill creators with Fox and Castle, and then just a shooter, and Vassell can create his own shot too, and that's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Barnes is no slouch either, but it's like you don't want to put Barnes on, or you don't want to put Brunson on Barnes. Maybe. I don't know. That's the other thing. I'm like, but then where are you going to put Cat? So it is.
The Spurs have an extremely advantageous front court for this game. They just do.
Yeah, they do.
Like they have personnel that they can swap in and out, and you'll be fine on Towns. Like I think you can bother him and get him. I mean, essentially, you could probably take him out of the game if you really wanted to, and you could screen Brunson into oblivion. So, that's a for sure a big positive in the Spurs direction, no question.
Yeah, I will say this. I have the Spurs winning tomorrow. I'll be very blunt about it. And I think the Spurs just have so many defensive uh, people that they can, defensive like matchups they can throw at Brunson if they need to, and just different guys that just play high IQ defense that the Spurs team has not had for so long. It feels like that this year has been like special to watch how good this defense has been. And even with Wemby being out, like I know that like you brought up, Adam, like the defense got worse while Wemby was out, but the offense got better. The offense, even the defense, just when Wemby's on the floor, is just insane. Plus Luke Cornett, I love the man, and he's just such a phenomenal backup center, and I miss him so much in Boston.
No, we thank you. We thank you for Luke, for sure. He's been perfect.
Yeah. What do you have, Carlson? Do you have the Knicks or Spurs?
I think the Spurs will end up winning the game too. I'd just be curious to see the Knicks try and fly around a little bit on defense, like play some high wall stuff. See if you can like leave some corner shooters open if you need to. Let the Spurs like see if the Spurs will take the jump shots early. Get active, try and get in passing lanes that'll get you inside. Blitz screens, just active hands like that. That's essentially what I would at least try and start off with. See if you can set a tone in the game. But ultimately, I think that the Spurs have too many options for the personnel that the Knicks have.
Yeah, Adam.
Yeah, go Spurs, go. No, Wemby and Castle are both high turnover guys, so that is an area where they can kind of take advantage and maybe generate some offense out of that, right? Just turning those guys over a couple times. But yeah, I think it's a big Fox game. I think if Fox is as steady as he was against OKC, I think the Spurs win.
I love it. Let's take a turn here though, and let's go to a team that's not in the Cup final tomorrow, but a team who has been consistently. Adam and I make the joke if they make it out of the first round, they're making the conference finals, and that is the Minnesota Timberwolves. If they make it out of the first round, you must place the bet for them to then make the conference finals. I have done that now 2 years in a row, and I have been a happy man. But Carlson, we talked about it even before we started recording. It feels like we have this conversation like this time of year, every year, except for last year, whenever you said this, Wolves had like their most complete season. Is it ever in their
two years ago was the most complete season, 23-24.
Yes.
They had the best November in franchise history. That was the year that Gobert won Defensive Player of the Year. That was their only complete season in the last.
Were they a 3 seed that year? Was that right?
Gotcha.
They finished as a 3 seed.
Ooh, that's actually yes, it would have been because they lost to the Suns in Game 82, and that was the game that I think got the Suns out of the play-in.
That's right. That's right.
And then they lost, and everyone thought the Suns were going to win that first round series, including me.
You did.
I
did.
I will.
That's more of a ball knower than me.
No, I was. That was my one bold prediction. I actually got it right.
Yeah, that was. I mean, well, and that year the Suns matchup was one that killed them. I don't even think it was Game 82. I mean, if my memory serves me right, I think they played. They must have played 4 times that year, and I think I know for a fact they had a losing record. They lost earlier in the year.
It was 1-3. They were 1-3 against the Suns that year because I remember us talking about it like early, maybe even like that first week of the or right before the playoffs started. I think we had you on and you were talking about it, just like how much you hated that matchup, and
it's awful.
Or maybe me and Aaron were just texting you at that time, and it was just like one of those things you were just so pissed about it too. But I don't know. I think it was us trying to you were so into the forest, and there was us above the forest looking over the trees, and we're like, yeah, but this is a team in Minnesota that has so much more than just 2 guys scoring at this time, and that's what it felt like only Phoenix had in Durant and Booker.
Yeah, that's a good point. You guys knew it. Everybody knew it except me. Clearly, I was the one. I was the one in the dark, Mitch.
Simmons didn't know it either. Let's be real. Bill Simmons also thought the Suns were just crushing the Wolves, and you know what? The Podfather was wrong too. But let's not talk about 2 years ago Wolves. Let's talk about this year Wolves. And in a West that has felt so heavily congested at the top, the Wolves had felt in this 4 to 7 range for the majority of this season, like within the seeding of the West. And, top talent, Anthony Edwards, and there's been some injuries that have just hit this team. And you can see the age of some of the older veterans also hitting this team too. let's start with the positive side thing first. What has been the most encouraging part of this Wolves team just to start the year?
Well, I think you have to look at Anthony Edwards taking another half step. I
Okay.
wouldn't necessarily say it's a full step forward, just because I still think that there's a little bit of meat on the bone there with him as a 24-year-old that he can continue to read defenses at a high rate, kind of become like further into that lead guard role that he's at least started to kind of take on. Um, so at least as of right now, I would say another half step.
Okay.
Julius Randle, I think that has turned into a really nice signing, or I would not say maybe long-term signing, but it's turned into a really nice contract. I would wager to say it's at least right now I, one of the better contracts in the league at $30 million a year.
For a number two guy, yeah, probably.
It's up there. So that's turned out pretty well. I think that the chemistry between Ant and Randall has improved. It's a lot less your turn, my turn on a nightly basis. There's a little bit more cohesion. The starting five is good. It's productive, which is something that has not always been the case.
Right.
It's as a matter of fact, in previous years, it's been upstaged a lot by the bench unit that's come in and moved the ball and found good offense. And then I think not to be outdone by Jaden McDaniels. I mean, he's taken a full step forward. Offensively, I mean, he's always had. I mean, I would say he's always been the best mid-range scorer on the team. He's got his spots from the elbows that he can kind of pull up to. Inside the paint too, jump shots, like he's able to make those contested on a pretty regular basis. He's just finding that more this year, and then he's been much more consistent from three as well. He struggled in years where he would just kind of sit in the corner and kind of be a passive participant in the offense, and just kind of take what was given to him. He's been much more active on the ball this year, not only as a scorer, but I think another thing that's opened up for him as well is being able to find Rudy a little bit more off of the pick and roll, and being able to be a little bit more of an initiator and find things for himself.
So let's stick with McDaniels just real quick, because I've said it this year a few times, and even just during this when Ant's been out, I've seen it a little bit more in the stretch. I had questions on whether or not he could even be like, whenever it's him and Randall or him and Ant just out there together, like, could he be an actual second option scoring wise? And you brought it up though, like, I hadn't considered how good of a mid-range shooter he's been until this year, like more so specifically this past month. And so, watching him, he's 50, 40, 85 right now. I mean, in his shooting splits, which has been phenomenal to see just like how efficient he has been. But this year, you're absolutely right. He has taken that leap where I'm like, I don't have a worry if you're the second option in a lineup right now. Like, it's been very special where it's like, okay, I'm not having to rely on DiVincenzo all the time, or I'm not having to rely on like getting Gobert paint touches. It's like, okay, we can feed a possession to McDaniels here, and it's been very fun to watch this growth happen. Just so, in my mind, I didn't expect it to happen like this either.
Yeah, I don't know if I really did either, just because he's also kind of a personality type where he's not necessarily going to take a super active role in an offense. He's not really like an alpha dog type. He is kind of, I mean, clearly there's been so many instances where he's not afraid to mess with people and get in faces and be like that. But I mean, he's never really been someone to assert himself in an offense. I think that he's been given that green light this year because it's the reality of the situation. I mean, this team needs a legitimate third option in order for it to be a viable playoff team. I mean, if Jaden McDaniels, I think last year was the best season of his career. I think early on in the year he was not having a good year, but he actually ended up rounding into one of his best career seasons. That's been the story this whole time. Has just been his inconsistency. I mean, I talked about the mid-range scoring. He's always had that. It's just, are you going to really, enforce your will upon the game on both sides of the ball? He's had it. He always has had it. He's had it for the last few years. But this is the year where that's kind of happening, and it's because I think he's being challenged by the coaching staff to do it.
I was gonna say, I don't want to like harp on him too much, but I think that's when like you need. It feels like there's so much wing play for the Wolves this year. It's not so much. And I think you're right. You brought it up, like him finding Gobert. I think that's been one of the things too. I think there has been a lot of moments where like it's not like, hey, it's a Gobert touch time. It's like, oh, Gobert's open. Let's actually like find him on nights, and especially like in that Kings game, like on last night, it's like there was active. It wasn't like they were actively like running plays for Gobert. It was like, oh, he's wide open. Let's actually like hit him. This has also been the year weirdly that this is, and maybe you can correct me. I don't know if I've seen Gobert with softer hands than this year. It feels like they've turned from the sheets of ice that they were in Utah to becoming like actual like feather touch. And it feels like this year it's been a little bit better.
Yeah, he's actually he's been a legitimately normal catcher of the basketball, which has been which has not happened previously. I think especially in that Suns game that he actually ended up getting ejected from, he was having one of his better games in a Wolves jersey from the standpoint of finding the dunker spot, being able to find some of these softer spots in Suns were running a little bit of a zone early on. They were running a lot of gravity towards the initial ball handler too. And he was able to kind of find the soft spot in some of these defenses and be able to catch the ball and go up and make a basket. And I also think too, additionally, like some of his contested finishes at the rim have been there. It's not been, he's not, Jokic, but he's certainly like able to finish with a guy on him now. And that's something that's been new as of recent. And now it's just a question if number 5 can consistently find him in these, because there's like that's the power of Rudy Gobert on your team. Like it's if you can find him in these not niche spots, but if you can find him in these in these areas that where he's drawing so much gravity on the offensive side, like Ant has no problem getting 3-4 feet of space off of a Rudy Gobert screen and pulling up and letting it rock. But when it comes to actually finding him on a pick and roll, when Rudy's going down all by himself and there's 2 guys who are blitzing that screen and coming up on Ant, like these are the types of things that are kind of your next progression. Like these are the things where like using your previous all NBA center to your advantage, not only to get your own shot, but to open up paths in the offense as well, which in the long run does so much more for the offense. They run a lot of action off of Rudy when he's on the floor. And that's a very important thing to keep as a weapon, because when you don't, you're going to find yourself in trouble.
Adam, I feel like me and you have watched the Wolves a fair amount to start this year. And I think one of the things, and Carlson's brought it up, it has been that half step of Edwards that we are noticing just like in this jump of this year. When you're watching Edwards, what has been most encouraging for you when you're watching when you are watching Edwards play, Adam?
I think the willingness to kind of be that guy, but what actually like concerns me a bit, which is this is one that's good for Ant, but maybe not as great for the team, is the fact that he's having to do so much of that because of Conley obviously taking he's just a different phase of his career. Like I wish so badly we could see like a prime Mike Conley on this team. That this would be awesome.
Yes.
It's like they're crying out for a player like that. It's just like he's just not capable of doing that anymore. And then Dante obviously is not like a point guard. He's just not. So I know, Mitch, you're going to throw out some trades here in a second, and I think it's going to be a guard heavy list. You should say. We could say. It's like that really is the piece that they just like are missing. So yeah, it's like it's encouraging to see him like his willingness to do it. But it does. I think your point, Carlson. It's like he does not trust Rudy like he should yet. It's like you can tell he trusts Julius. You can tell he trusts even like a Bones Highland. It's like he trusts some of these other dudes, but it's like something about Rudy. It's like this not quite. I don't quite. It's like I see that's open, but I don't really want to throw it yet. Like, or I don't really feel like I should throw it because I don't want it to get screwed up or whatever. So yeah, you're obviously watching every game. So like, what exactly? Like, do you think is that fair?
Yeah, no, I think part of it is I do think too. Like, I think it's glossed over a lot that Ant's like he's not a great passer. No. He just isn't, and especially in traffic too. I just don't think I don't think he loves making that pass really to anybody. I think him and Nas have some pretty good pick and roll chemistry, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that Nas pops more often than he actually rolls. Mm-hmm. So he that's one of the main reasons that he'll trust Nas. But there was that funny story that there was that funny story from the All-Star game where I don't know if it was Steve Kerr that drew up a lob for him or like for Ant to throw a lob to somebody, and he said, "Coach, I can't throw lobs." And I think he was legitimately serious.
Yeah.
It was the Olympics.
Yeah. I think it was. I thought it was an All-Star game.
I
think it was an All-Star game where
I thought it was like an
or somebody.
I thought it was like a exhibition game for the Olympics. But you're probably right.
That could have been too. But I mean, I think like, people laughed at it, but he was legitimately serious. He doesn't throw a lot of lobs, and that's kind of an issue. And I mean, oftentimes too, like what's been his Achilles heel in playoff games, especially in Dallas 2 years ago, is when he stops at the elbow with the ball and he just kind of makes these errant passes. Whether it's cross court into the corner, he's just ill-advised passes to the wing where there's clearly somebody in those passing lanes. Like he just isn't the passer right now. And I think that's a big part of it. Does he trust Rudy? I think he trusts Rudy. I think he trusts Rudy a good amount. I do not think that he trusts him enough to give him the ball consistently in the offense. And I don't think he trusts himself to make that pass either, frankly.
Yeah.
Is there?
So yeah, it's almost like it's like double as he comes. He's turning the corner of the screen, right? Because every player has this like frame of reference, and like if they're usually a primary ball handler, when they look at the court, they're seeing like everything in front of them, right? More of a back to the basket player, they're kind of like their back is to the rim, so they're seeing everything that direction. So like Ant's frame of reference is always like looking at the rim with like the whole thing mapped in front of him, and it's like you can tell there's like this. Like I just don't know. It maybe more in himself than it is even Rudy. It's like but that split second is the difference in like Luka and Ant, right? Like Luka doesn't have that split second. It's like I just do it. I just react. I see it. I have every pass you can think of in my toolkit, and I can just throw it whenever I need it. And Ant, that's like the one thing because like I think in a vacuum, it's hard for people to kind of like understand why like Luka's a more valuable player than Ant right now. And that is why, right? It's the creation for others because like this basketball's not played in a vacuum, right? It's a 5-on-5 game, so. He just like that decision making is just not quite like it's probably the piece that's going to keep him from being like he might not ever be a top 3 player in the league, probably just because of that.
Sure. It very well could be. I mean, you look at even guys like Harden when he was on his MVP run when he had Capella as that kind of safety blanket who was kind of in the dunker area that he could essentially throw it to whenever he wanted because he was going to draw it to no matter what. Like. That's Ant, but he hasn't found that safety blanket. Like he hasn't found the ability to at least throw it to that safety blanket yet. And, like Chris Finch has asked him to become a lead guard this year. Like that has been a thing on record that Finch has said time and time again that like, the starting lineup doesn't have a point guard. It's Dante DiVincenzo moving the ball quickly up the floor and getting into stuff. And Ant is entrusted with being kind of that lead guard. And if you are going to be that, which I do think that is going to be an evolution in his career that he's going to need to take, it's going to be something that you're going to need to find into your bag.
So okay, that'd be my question then. So do you think the Timberwolves' best route to a title is Anthony Edwards being that lead guard or going and finding one to kind of pair with him?
Oh gosh, that's a really hard question. I don't know. I think that I think that the lineup just needs a secondary ball handler. Like you need a secondary ball handler that's like you talked about. This team really could use Mike Conley 2 years ago. That's like their ideal player that could be injected into the lineup. Someone who is capable of taking the ball up the floor and getting into offense. But I don't think it's like this. I don't think it's like this Ja Morant move that you should make. It's not this other lead guard move that takes it off of Ant. I think Ant definitely needs to find that gear. I mean, he's 24. He's so raw still. I mean, there is that gear that you do need to invest some time and resources into him taking. But as of right now, I think it might be a little premature. I just think that that's something that Chris Finch is willing to do at this point.
Adam, comparison for you is now not literally, but just roll with me here. Is Anthony Edwards looking for his version of a Derek Fisher as a point guard? Is he looking for his point guard who can be a semi-facilitator but also a scorer but also a guy who can just fuck it up on both sides of the ball if necessary, but not piss you off like Derek Fisher does.
Yeah. No, that's actually a good. Yeah, that like because it doesn't need to be like it can be a league average point guard. It doesn't have to be like this all-star player. Like obviously we could sit here and be like, oh well, Derek White, man, what a perfect. It's like, well, yeah, I mean Derek White would fit on any team. So but I do think a Derek White like type is what it needs, right? Just secondary baller guy doesn't need to have it the whole time, provide some value off the ball, and pretty good defensively, right? So you need to kind of solve those three things. And Fisher, I can't stand the guy, but he did do that, right? He did do that thing. And like when the Lakers really like were at their best, Kobe had the ball, right? The second,
Right.
the second pair of titles with Powell, like Kobe was the initiator. But yeah, when necessary, Fisher was capable of doing that, and then especially the off ball value, like that's got to be a guy who can knock down shots. Like it can't be a 18% 3-point shooter like John Morant, right? It's like that would be a terrible fit, I think. Plus just the personalities. I just think that's a whole other issue. But yeah, I Derek Fisher type actually I think makes a lot of sense.
Don't worry, Carlson. Morant was nowhere near my list of players.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
I felt like Jimmy Butler 2.0 might have, the hatred of Jimmy Butler 2.0 might have come out real quickly if we had to have that.
I don't know if I would have gotten that far. I would have just been a house of cards that would not have been sustainable. But yeah, no. To your point, like I do, at some point or another, if this team is going to win a title, I think there's going to need to be the ability for Ant to be a lead guard in important situations. And that's just, I think that right now, just talking to him, whether it be locker room after the game, talking to Finch about it, like he is still pretty early on in that development. He talks about, he's like, I watch Luka clips, I watch Harden clips, I watch a lot of these guys who I think I can kind of eventually somewhat emulate or kind of mold into. But he's still, like 2 years ago, he legitimately had a hard time reading defenses. I mean, that was something that he started playing basketball and he's like a junior in high school. So, I mean, he's just still, it's hard to make these types of excuses, but at the same time, like he is just so early on in that journey. And I don't think he's ever going to be a basketball supercomputer like Luka is. But he can certainly have that capability of being a lead guard who can read defenses pretty well in these big spots. And that's, I mean, if the Wolves are ever going to raise the trophy, like that's what's going to be, I think, needed from him.
We have on our Hooper's Almanac players ranking, we have Anthony Edwards at number 7 of all players.
Who are the 6 ahead of him?
I will tell you there is one guy that is hurt and might be coming back later this year, but this was at the end of yes, you're right.
Okay.
Jokic, Giannis, SGA, Luka, Tatum, and then Wemby.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
The 3 behind him, he's in our category of franchise shifters, but he's in, which includes Tatum, Wemby, Ant, and then Curry, Brunson, and Cade. Those are that's like the crew he's with, which I feel like is very like that collection of guys is just a great collection of and similar to him, it's like they are A+. I mean, A at a lot of different things. There's just like one thing, him, it's passing, that it's just like, can they get better at this one thing to be in that top tier, like within that top 5? Because I think that's what the NBA is not missing. Like everyone in that crew is fighting to be the 5th best player in the NBA right now,
which is insane. When you read those names, it's like we're at number 10. It's like in another season, another era, the guy that we have at like number 10 would be like the MVP of the league, like that, like a Cade Cunningham. You know what I mean? Like he's going to be on the best team in the East. He's amazing, and he's going to be like the 9th best player. It's like that's amazing. Like it's a really amazing time.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah, and to your point on Ant, I mean, he just needed to make more noise against Oklahoma City last year in the Western Conference Finals if he wanted to vault himself into that top 5 consideration. Like he just, it's been 2 straight Western Conference Finals where he's kind of just petered out. I mean, he's had good games here and there, but I mean, if he's really looking to kind of make that step into the top 5, like and kind of solidify himself there, like he's got to at least take a Western Conference Finals to 7 games and be a guy who throws the team on the back. And he just hasn't been that yet. And
the consistency, like you've been on earlier, like, the bringing it every night where it's like, hey, I know we're playing Charlotte tonight, but like there's, I mean, like, Brunson doesn't take a night off. Like it's like he just doesn't. Shea does not take a night off.
Yep.
This consecutive 20 game streak is amazing, right? It's like he doesn't even play the fourth quarter. He's still got that streak going. So yeah, that'd be the one thing. And I'm gonna sound like a little bit harsh on Ant in this podcast, but I love him. Like, and this is all coming from a place of like I want him to get to that kind of clear top 4 or 5 category. But I do wonder if there's just that piece is just gonna always be maybe just slightly missing.
Yeah, that's a very fair criticism.
Which let's get into if we can find his Derek Fisher or just his running mate at guard.
Hit us, Mitch.
Or I told Carlson I have 11 names here, and listen, I have trades like all written out over here.
Oh my gosh!
Thank you to the Spot Track because that's the best trade machine of all freaking time. If you're still using the ESPN trade machine, Bill Simmons, get your head out of your ass and be better. And so go use Spot Track. I have it basically sectioned off, and we can go from lowest to highest talent, or we can flip it, however you want to start this.
How about you mix them up? Do it kind of like
yeah.
Throw some surprises at me. Yeah. Let's see what's behind door 3.
Yeah,
door 3 is a phenomenal starter for you because I read this one to Adam last night and he was slightly interested. I read a few of these to Adam like last night. I called him and I was like, Adam, I have an idea, and he's like, bring it on. So we'll start with door number 3, and it's out in the Eastern Conference. It's a guy who plays at 6 a.m. every night, and I sincerely am so pissed that he ended up on a crappy team in Charlotte. But would you have any interest in Colin Sexton as your guard to be next to Anthony Edwards?
Little scoring heavy, but I wouldn't hate it. He's a good player. I mean, I like Colin Sexton. He's always been on bad teams,
right?
So I see where you're coming from there. He's a little scoring heavy, but I think that would be something that could be made work.
I was gonna say there's this aggressiveness that feels like it would work in Minnesota, and it's just like I think him being put into a situation where he does not have to have the ball in his hands, and I feel like he has been better off the ball this year, has had to be since LaMelo wants to hold the ball for 20 seconds, and then has to do something with 4 seconds left. I think Sexton's ability has grown so much this year in reading defenses in a much more organized offense that Charles Lee runs. And so I have been enjoying his time there, but I felt like he would be a good secondary guard next to Ant, and brings just like the fire bulldog kind of energy that it seems like Ant also has as well.
Man, look, I get the question too is like, what are we getting defensively? I think that's always a Chris Finch thing is, he likes guys that there's a reason that Mike Conley at the age of 37 is still getting tick. Like these are guys who care defensively, who don't necessarily have to be hid defensively. That would be, I think, probably the one hesitation there. I wonder what is he giving you on that? What is he an additive? Is he someone that you're just going to have to hide and ultimately, like in a playoff setting, is that just someone that you're just going to have to worry about being hunted possession after possession?
Adam, help me out here because I wonder if it's just been the situation for him. He hasn't had a need to defend, in any of the teams he's been on. And I wonder if that's like a level of care because you're like, great, I went from Utah to Charlotte. Phenomenal. 2 teams that have shown how much they care about playing defense. So it's just like, is there a level of care to it that he's been like given the opportunity to? So that's my only thing too. Is like, I think you put him in a situation where he's like, hey, can you want me to listen, this is just pure speculation, but this guy has just so much fire in his body. I wonder if he would just put his head through a wall to be next to Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And obviously he was on Cleveland before they got good too. So he has not really played like a meaningful NBA game yet, it feels like. So but yeah, maybe if he was on a team where it's like, oh shoot, I actually don't have to do much scoring here. I actually can focus on just these few tasks. Maybe that would help, but I was intrigued by that one. I'm curious to hear what else, but yeah, maybe we can kind of like have our top 3 options at the end. But hit us with the next one.
Yeah.
Okay. That Cleveland backcourt, man. R.I.P. to Sexland.
Yeah.
Oh my
That was
god.
that's an all time. That was just an all. It's an all timer, man. Miss those
Sheesh.
guys.
Good lord.
I do like that though. Colin Sexton has been one that I've even brought up previously, like before even this year, like last year when the point guard stuff was a question mark once again. That Colin Sexton was a name that I brought up, so that's a good one.
All right, I'm going to bring up a guy I think we've brought up every year we've done this. Tyus Jones at his lowest value.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, here's the thing. I've another one that I've actually kind of thrown out to a couple other people who I cover the team with. Like, I mean, just putting this into two silos. Like, there are two routes that this team can go down. The one that's additive to the team is acquiring someone like a Tyus Jones, which I tend to lean more towards. And the additive there is that you get DiVincenzo off the bench. Because the bench needs scoring production, and that is going to be ultimately your biggest benefit right now. Because right now the bench sits in a spot where below Naz Reid you're kind of playing a mixture of like Conley, Jalen Clark, who's a good player, but he's just not there offensively. Rob Dillingham, who's struggling. Terrence Shannon, who there was a lot of high hope for and has not panned out. And Bones Highland has shown a little bit of something, but it's so early with him right now.
Right.
So the additive there is getting DiVincenzo off the bench, and the Tyus Jones acquisition is something that is in that lane.
Okay.
Would be very interested. I do think there are politics there in acquiring someone like a Tyus Jones and putting him in the starting lineup and pushing a DiVincenzo to the bench. That makes that very hard. But it's interesting. It is path one that this team can go down.
I was going to say, it is a door that's like, it's at his lowest value he's probably ever been. And you're going to get him and bring him back to a city who, like, I mean, grew up here. And so it's just like bring him back home and like get him. And I think it'd be one of those things like DiVincenzo had to earn it in like last year and like earn his starting role. And it felt like before he got hurt. And so I feel like similar thing. Can Jones earn his way back into a starting lineup and be playing for this team?
Yeah, no, that's door one. Honestly, his brother would be a great fit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Trey is probably a better player now.
Yeah. Oh,
can't shoot as well as Tyus. Although Tyus has sucked shooting this year, but Trey, I feel like it's either nicking the rim or it's just not even getting there. I never think it's going in from three. I have one team that has two players for you, and two guards for you. Any interest in Dennis Schroeder or Malik Monk?
Wow, two completely opposite ends of the spectrum. Do we want to score 130 points or do we want to just play mid-major basketball? I don't know. I don't know if I'm really interested in either of them, honestly. Okay. I want someone I just want someone who's a little bit more complete on both ends. Malik Monk is a notorious Wolves killer. I mean, he goes for at least 20 every single time he plays the Timberwolves. But
okay,
I think Malik Monk's fun. I don't know about he feels like a spark plug off the bench guy. I don't know if I like him as a starter with this team.
Adam, this was the one I think I originally threw out to you was this, and you brought up just like how well he can be on and off the ball if necessary on offense. But Carlson, you're right. The defense does not pass the Quinn Cook test. There's no shot that man is staying in front of Quinn Cook more than 6 times.
No, it would be a lot of fun. I mean, it would be a really fun offensive team, and he would be able to get a lot of shots that he wants with Rudy Gobert setting screens for him. But
yeah,
he feels like a bench guy on a championship team.
Okay. Let's go back east. Another team that usually plays 6:30 to start nights. I think this would fit your defensive mold, but I don't know if this team would even trade this guy. But Davion Mitchell, if there's a way that you get Davion Mitchell, are you in?
The playmaking chops. That's
Okay.
that's my like. See, here's the thing: is like with the Dennis Schroeder thing, like you can say, all right, we know we're going to get great defense. We know we're probably going to get a little bit of a kick in the ass every night from this guy. He can play make a little bit, and he can spot up. I can warm up to the Dennis Schroeder thing a little bit more.
Okay.
Davion Mitchell, it doesn't feel like he can be like if Ant goes down for 5 games, can he be a lead guard?
So my only thing, and Adam, speak to it here with how Miami's playing their offense. It feels like we've seen like this evolution in Mitchell's game this year, just because of how much we've been able to see him get to the rim and have to create his own without like a Gobert pick. And that's like with a team that does not set picks, like we're seeing that a little bit more this year.
His assist numbers are up too. I've noticed. I'd be curious, but Adam, what your thoughts are?
I don't. Who are you giving up to get him? Because you're not giving up any of your main 6
That's
guys.
the
Obviously,
thing.
that's. I don't know if you have enough.
It would
juice
have to be
get him.
The contractual thing would be DiVincenzo or Reed, and there's no shot that you're giving up Reed.
Yeah.
That's a hard pass.
So that'd be a question.
Is there a guy? No, go ahead. Yeah, you're about to ask the same question I am.
Well, no. That'd be the question I would have more is like before you name a few more players, Mitch, is like what type of trade are you wanting to make? Is it like, a little bit of draft capital and like a, one of these bench guys? Or it sounds like you're not wanting to touch one of the top 6 guys, but is there a player out there that's like, okay, if we package Nas and Dante, like, is there a star out there that like is worth a swing for?
Well, so this is where this is where pathway number 2 comes in. Is this is an imbalanced roster. Let's reset the thing, and let's make a gigantic trade. Let's get a little bit weird and get into the Giannis sweepstakes.
Oh my god!
I'm like that's the type of thing where it's like let's put someone next to Ant, and let's just see how we can build this thing out, and let's kind of rip it down to the studs a little bit. I mean, you're looking at like a Randall, Nas, McDaniels part of that as well.
Man, that's
yeah. I mean, but you're probably at that point choosing between a Nas or a Randall just to make the salaries work, because I think McDaniels at $25 million a year. He's on a great contract.
Not Gobert.
You take McDaniels is the more valuable asset.
Fair.
I mean, and Gobert. I mean, I think inevitably you're probably going to find a Gobert move after you make a trade like that. But you trade for Giannis and you figure out what you do later. That's essentially my path number 2 is you kind of go big game hunting and you use a lot of the depth and the good contracts that you built, and you just freaking take a swing. So that's kind of where I think I sit with that. I mean, I know Crispy Haynes reported something the other day about the Wolves being interested. I don't know how much interest there actually is there.
Sure.
But I think that, if you're not going to make that move on the margins to maybe bump like a Dante out of the starting 5 and get a lead guard in, like, let's see if we can pair up 2, top 6, top 7 guys and build around that.
Okay, then I'll rip through some of these final names real quick, because I have like this B tier list of guys, which has like Nemhard and Garland. But then now, would you be willing to give DiVincenzo for Andrew Nemhard?
It's certainly a conversation I'd be willing to have.
Mm-hmm.
It's a conversation I'd be willing to have.
Okay, and then Garland was my other one, but you would have to probably give up Randall for that, or like because of just contract size.
That's opportunity. That's opportunity.
Yeah,
and that's opportunity cost, because you're giving up a good amount. You're getting good offense. Again, there lies the defense question, and that's something that's been talked about, I think, in Wolves circles for the last couple of years, because that's who the Wolves initially wanted to take in the Jarrett Culver draft. That's who they moved up for, was to take Darius Garland.
Right.
And so it's always been like what if the Wolves traded for Darius Garland scenario in
Yeah,
a
Jared
lot of
Culver.
different Wolves circles. What a
The
time
delayed
to be
reaction
alive.
to Jarrett Culver is just the best part too. It's
Sorry.
just like, what are we getting out of this guy? No, it's Texas guy kicking it over there. Finally, I was waiting for the reaction to the Jarrett Culver. No, the other one, and I'll Adam's gonna hate this. De'Aaron Fox.
Another name that's been linked to the Wolves since he essentially came into the league.
Yeah.
How dare you?
What does the package look like? Like what's the yeah, like what
No,
does
I
it
know
look
it's
like?
it's got to be Randall, but like, what is San Antonio even going to take at that point too?
I think you have to. I mean, sure, obviously, like you're never like these types of trades, like a blockbuster trade of that type of a caliber. It would never be a surefire thing. Like you're not
No.
ever guaranteeing that you're going to win a trade like that. It's a gamble, but it's just are you giving up? Is it a zero-sum game for you?
Sure.
Because Julius Randle at this point is, I mean, he's developed a really nice role on this team. Like
Sure.
he's playing well above his contract value, and so you do need to see, even though he is, and he's at a paradox because he's 30, I think he's 32, 31. So there's just he's at kind of a crossroads as an asset for me. Like if you're going to give up Julius Randle, like let's maybe shoot for something a little bit different.
Me and you have texted a fair amount just throughout this year, just about like what the Wolves should do, and you've said that too. It's just like it's one of those things where Randall means more to you than he's going to mean to a lot of other teams. And you're right, that chemistry that he has built with Edwards this year has been much better than I think a lot of people expected, especially after the initial like trade that happened with Cat and him. And so seeing how well they have worked together has been great. And so I think that's what's important, is seeing that he is going to, and keeping those two together in theory is the correct move. I just like being an agent of chaos every now and then, and so to me it is something along the lines of, are we keeping Nas on the bench for a reason, or do you believe he can be a starter at some point for a team, or let alone this team?
Not right now. I think ultimately, the Nas and Randall front court has been an issue for this team all year. Like it's not giving you enough offense to make the defense worthwhile, or it's not giving you enough defense to make the offense worthwhile.
Sure.
It's legitimately horrific defensively. They can't rebound. They give up a lot of second chance points. And Nas has been a really bad defender too in his own right this year, on the ball specifically. It's been really, really tough. And so no, I think at this point, like I don't think Naz Reid is an NBA starter. I think he is he's your top tier bench player.
Okay.
That can maybe win you a playoff series if he catches fire, just because he's that talented offensively from just being able to put these microwave games together. He can fill in a starting role when your number 1-4 is down for a few games. He's a premium bench player, but I just a night to night NBA starter. I think that's a little bit. I think he started out so underrated that in that respect he almost became a little bit overrated.
Adam, I have just removed Nas Reid from my playoff starters list, and he is. So, which is the final thing I want to get into with you here, Carlson. Last week, Adam, me, and my brother talked about. I have cultivated a list from every team of playoff players, like guys you can trust to play in a playoff game, and then playoff starters, guys you can trust to play at least 30 minutes in a game. And I wanted to read the Timberwolves ones for you and just like get your thoughts on it. Because now, after we've talked, I feel like I'm going to have to remove at least two.
Okay.
I have 8 guys on this list that I trust to play in a playoff game. I have
and you said play about 15 minutes, right? That's your
15, 20 minutes at least. at the
What's your
very
criteria for trust? Like, are they playing well? Are they like if
like
you're just like you're a coach and you're like I can play this guy 15 minutes in a playoff game?
It's
That's
yeah,
the
not
it's
gonna
like
kill.
criteria.
It's not gonna
I
kill me.
can
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's
Okay.
not going to kill me. It's not going to screw with us. So I have Edwards, Randall, McDaniels, Gobert, which are also my 4 playoff starters I have for this team. Guys I can trust to play and start a game. Then I have Reed, DiVincenzo, Conley, and I don't know what happened to me for this final one, and I must have had a total slight aneurysm, but Terrence Shannon was my final option
Did you have a
there.
stroke?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but so I'm taking that Shannon should be removed from this list, but I didn't know if you thought Conley still fits on that list of guys you still trust in a playoff game.
I think I yeah, I reasonably think that there's a world by the end of this year where like Conley and Jalen Clark trade spots.
Mm.
I really like Jalen Clark's game for the postseason. I think he's a. I mean he'll commit. He's a young player. He'll commit a dumb foul at the end of the game every now and again. But I think for the postseason, like he's a very good on ball defender. He's strong. He doesn't get caught up in screens like in a lot of these ISO actions that you see, or a lot of these like screen actions that you can see in the playoffs to try and isolate guards. Like he could find his way to being a legitimate NBA player. The question is how consistent can the shot be? Because right now he's kind of limited to just being a spot up shooter, and
Mm.
he'll be a mid 30s, I think, 3-point shooter. But I really like his game for the postseason. I think that he wasn't in the rotation obviously last year because it was a much deeper team. But if they make the playoffs this year, which I think they will, he'll be in that rotation for sure.
Okay.
I think so Conley, he might find his way out, but I think that his spot could maybe be taken by Jalen Clark.
Okay. So 7 guys. All right, we'll remove Terrence Shannon. I'll debate between Clark and Conley as we move on throughout the season. But I thank you for Josh Minot, by the way, and no thank you for Luka Garza. I am happy he is no longer playing any sort of minutes for the Boston Celtics right now. Josh Minot is playing our pseudo small ball 5 on nights like tonight and trying to battle for rebounds against Jalen Durn.
It's funny you say that. I was actually talking. I talked to a couple Celtics people who were there early on in the season. They were there scouting the team. They're advanced scouts, and they mentioned I was like kind of how are things working out with Minot, because he was very, as you know, up and down in Minnesota. He got yanked from the rotation for the rest of the season after he missed a backdoor cut in Houston early on in the year last year. And they kind of deliberately started talking about Luka Garza. He's been a guy that the organization has really loved.
They love him inside. He's a great bench. He's a great bench energy guy. Minot gets the brunt of every bit of Joe Maz's shit. Like every time, at least once a game, Joe Maz has to literally yell at him. But his defense is just spectacular. I mean, he's just so athletically gifted that he can move and guard so many different guys. And he's semi decently okayly strong enough to battle and tip out rebounds, not to grab them with both hands, but at least tip the ball out and give our guards a chance to rebound the ball. So I'm done with Luka Garza minutes. I don't love that we don't have a backup center, but we're trusting in Neemias Queta. We trust in Boston Celtics circles. Adam,
the question for Minot was never potential. It was just the fact if he could play good minutes on a winning basketball team, and he credit to him, he goes to Boston, it's a team that didn't have a lot of expectation this year, and he's been given the ability to fail a little bit and get his minutes fluctuated based on his performance and actually develop. And I think that's part of what the issue is with Dillingham right now, and it's part of what the issue is with Shannon. Is you have a car that's going 65 miles an hour. It's an analogy that's been used. You have a car that's going 65 miles an hour, and these guys are probably going 30 right now, and they need to be able to ramp up. And you're asking them to just kind of jump in and not make as many mistakes. And part of that is, I think, what's going on with Dillingham right now, and what we're seeing with Bones Highland, where he's coming in and giving some instant offense. Like, that's someone who's been in the league before, who's come off the bench in different spots, and has shown that he can be an NBA bench player. And right now, like, two young guys, Shannon not so young, but still I would consider a young guy, 2 years in the league. That's been a little bit more of an issue.
It's the cars going 60, and they're trying on bikes to catch up with it. It feels like it's like they're riding the why am I blanking on the tandem bike together, trying to catch up and pedal together. Carlson, I appreciate you joining us tonight, my man. Thanks so much for coming on to talk Wolves and talk NBA Cup. For the probably 50th time, but you can tell everybody, where can people read and find your stuff so that we can keep up with you?
Yeah, you can just follow me on Twitter at Andrew_Carlson2. I write for Canis Hoopus, which is the SB Nation affiliate for the Timberwolves. You'll find some of my stuff on there, but keep it tuned to the Twitter feed. I'll put everything I write on there.
Yeah, your hatred of the Thunder will always come out like it did on Saturday night.
Frustration.
Sorry, not hatred. Frustration. Carlson, thanks. Adam, once again, fun pod with you, my friend. And then we will be back next week. We'll wrap up. We'll do NBA Cup stuff next week, but also just preview Christmas Day games as well. Go Celtics. Go Spurs. Go Wolves. And have a great rest of your week, y'all.